I have been using Windows for over 2 decades. I grew up on it. I learned everything I know about computers sitting in front of a Windows machine, and for most of that time I never had a reason to question what was happening underneath the surface. But that changed a few months ago when I went deeper into Windows 11 than I ever wanted to go. And what I found, after hours of research, after working through Microsoft's own documentation, independent privacy audits, security researcher reports, and the findings of hundreds of thousands of users who were asking the same questions I was, is something I genuinely believe every person using this operating system right now needs to hear. So before you click away thinking you already know everything about the software running on your machine, stay with me. Because what I am about to walk you through is not about fear, and it is not about conspiracy theories. It is about understanding the specific, documented ways your computer is being used right now while you use it. They're watching this, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it. Let me start with the thing that caused the biggest eruption in the Windows community in recent memory. It is called recall. When Microsoft first announced it back in May 2024, the concept had a kind of science fiction appeal to it. Your PC would take periodic screenshots of your screen and use artificial intelligence to build a searchable timeline of everything you had ever done on it. Forgot which website you were reading 3 Tuesdays ago. Just describe it in plain language and your computer brings it back up. Microsoft framed it as photographic memory for your PC, and honestly, sitting with it on paper, that does not sound entirely terrible. It sounds futuristic. It sounds convenient. But then the security researchers got involved, and what they found stopped the conversation. Cold. In the early versions of Recall, all of those screenshots, every frame your monitor had ever displayed, were being stored in plain text, not encrypted, not hidden behind any meaningful protection, just sitting there on your drive, readable by anyone or anything that got access to your machine, your passwords as you typed them in too. Login forms, your bank account numbers, your private messages, your medical records, every sensitive thing that had ever appeared on your screen was being captured, held, and left completely exposed. The University of Pennsylvania's Office of Information Security, which is not a fringe group by any stretch, released a formal warning. In April 2025, describing Recall as something that introduced substantial and unacceptable security, legal, and privacy challenges, they told administrators at Penn to disable it immediately. Microsoft pulled back. They delayed the rollout multiple times. They rebuilt the underlying architecture, added encryption, layered in biometric authentication through Windows Hello, and eventually re-released Recall in April 2025 as an opt-in feature restricted to Copilot Plus PCs as of late 2025 and into 2026. It has been rolling out more broadly, and right now it is disabled by default, which is a significant retreat from where this whole thing began. But the European Data Protection Board has opened a formal investigation into whether Recall even complies with GDPR. Independent security researchers are still raising red flags about the feature in its current form, and fewer than 10% of Windows 11 machines can even run it right now because it requires specialized hardware with a dedicated neural processing unit. That number is going to climb fast as people buy new computers, so even if Recall is not on your machine today, it is coming. What bothers me most about the whole Recall story is not the technical failure of the first version. Software has bugs. Security problems get discovered and patched. What bothers me is that Microsoft's original vision was for this to run by default, capturing everything on every eligible machine without you actively choosing it. They had to be walked back from that position by public outrage and the threat of regulatory action that tells you something important about where the instincts of this company are pointed when they think no one is watching. They are pointed toward more collection, more capture, more of your data flowing through their infrastructure. Not less, and Recall is just the most visible example of a pattern that runs much deeper through Windows 11. Underneath the Recall controversy, there is a data collection architecture that has been quietly running in the background since the day you first booted up this operating system. Microsoft calls it diagnostic data. They describe it as essential health information, the backbone of keeping your system secure and up to date, and some of that is probably genuinely true. Some of what they collect does help them identify bugs and push fixes. I am not going to pretend otherwise. But when you actually dig into the documentation, when you read through the independent privacy reviews and the community analysis that has been accumulating for years, what you find in the optional diagnostic data category, which is switched on by default when you set up Windows 11, goes significantly beyond what most people would consider routine health monitoring. We are talking about your browsing history through Edge, detailed records of which apps you open and how you use them, granular timing data about when your device is active, feature usage patterns, and in some cases, information about the files you access. Here is the part that Microsoft does not advertise loudly enough. You cannot turn telemetry off completely. You can go into your settings right now and switch to required diagnostic data only, and you should, but even at that setting, some baseline level of information is still being dispatched to Microsoft. There is no off switch. There has not been one since Windows 7. A 2025 analysis published on the Windows forum confirmed what privacy advocates have been saying for years. Even a Windows 11 machine configured for maximum privacy within the standard settings interface is still sending data. The distinction Microsoft draws between required and optional sounds reassuring, but the line between anonymized and truly de-identified is blurrier than their marketing suggests. And the Diagnostic Data Viewer, the tool Microsoft built to let you see what is actually leaving your machine, is so technically complex and jargon-heavy that almost nobody uses it. The transparency exists on paper. In practice, visibility into what is leaving your machine is extremely low. Windows 11 is not a free operating system. You paid for it, either directly through a license or as part of the cost of the computer it came installed on. When you pay for something, the expectation is clear. You are the customer. The product works for you. But Microsoft has quietly restructured that relationship by treating Windows as a platform for data collection, for AI model training, for service integration, for targeted recommendations they carefully avoid calling advertisements, but which function exactly like advertisements. They have shifted your position from customer to something closer to the product itself and the majority of people using Windows 11 right now have no idea that shift even happened. Let me be specific about what this looks like in practice, because specifics matter. The Edge browser, which Windows 11 pushes aggressively at every turn, generates its own separate stream of telemetry on top of what the operating system itself is collecting. Apps like OneDrive, Defender Smart Screen, Bing, and Microsoft 365. Each make their own background network calls. Every interaction with a Microsoft Cloud service, from setting your lock screen wallpaper to saving a file, creates a telemetry record. And Windows 11's 25H2 update, rolling out through late 2025 and into 2026, has added even more telemetry hooks. Insider Preview builds introduced a new targeted telemetry mechanism tied to system performance, and while Microsoft frames it as opt-in through the Feedback Hub, the definitions of what triggers data collection are vague enough that security researchers are still trying to understand exactly where the lines are. Now let me talk about the advertising situation inside Windows 11, because this is the part that even longtime Microsoft fans have run out of patience for. Think about this for a moment. You bought a computer. You paid for an operating system, either directly or as part of your hardware cost. You opened your Start menu and there were ads waiting for you. Not gentle suggestions buried in a settings page nobody visits, actual advertisements in the operating system you paid for, pushed to you based on your usage behavior and browsing patterns. In March 2026, a Microsoft engineering lead publicly responded on social media to a user who described the company's behavior in Windows 11 as borderline malware tactics. His response was not a denial. He said a calmer and more chill OS with fewer upsells is a goal they are working toward. A goal, not something they have achieved. That single statement confirmed everything users have been experiencing for 2 years. The ads are real. They are deliberate, and Microsoft is only now beginning to acknowledge they went too far. Your Start menu's recommended section, which most people assume shows recently opened files and frequently used apps, has been used by Microsoft to push app suggestions from the Microsoft Store. Your lock screen, the one you see every time your machine wakes up, can show you so-called tips and fun facts that are functionally promotional. Content steering you toward Microsoft services and Edge. The search bar in your taskbar surfaces Bing results mixed in with local file results, meaning every time you search for something on your own computer, Microsoft is inserting its search engine into the experience whether you want it there or not. File Explorer has shown OneDrive. Storage upgrade prompts. The Settings app contains recommendations for Microsoft 365 subscriptions. The Widgets panel is full of content from MSN feeds that, according to Windows Central, Microsoft has been embedding ads into by default. And then there is the one that genuinely made me stop and stare at my screen when I first found out about it. At one point in 2024, Microsoft pushed a Bing Chat pop-up that appeared inside Google Chrome when the system detected that Chrome was your default browser. They detected you were using a competitor and used that information to try to redirect you. When the backlash came, they rolled it back. But the fact that it was built, tested, and deployed to real users in the first place tells you everything about the philosophy driving these decisions. Someone on the product team looked at that feature and approved it. That is not an accident, that is a worldview. Now let's talk about your internet connection, because this is the part that surprises people the most. Windows 11 has a feature called Delivery Optimization, and it is enabled by default on every standard installation. What it does is use your machine as a peer-to-peer distribution node for Windows updates. That means when someone on the same internet exchange as you needs an update file, your computer may be uploading that file to them directly, using your bandwidth, your upload capacity, your data allowance. If you are on a capped connection, Microsoft is effectively running a distributed content delivery network using your hardware and your internet plan, and they did not ask you first. On top of that, Windows 11 runs multiple network-hungry systems simultaneously in the background by default. You have delivery optimization handling peer-to-peer distribution. You have OneDrive syncing files to the cloud. You have telemetry packets being dispatched to Microsoft servers. You have Microsoft Store apps updating themselves. You have Defender Smart Screen checking URLs, and you have quality of service reservations that Microsoft has built into the network stack that can carve off a portion of your available bandwidth for operating system processes. The cumulative effect of all of this running at once is something anyone with a mid-range or older internet connection has felt without being able to explain it. Your downloads slow down for no obvious reason. Your video calls buffer unexpectedly. Your online games spike in latency, and you find yourself rebooting your router because you cannot think of what else to do. Microsoft actually admitted in October 2025 that OneDrive syncing can slow down your PC, not a forum user alleging it, not a third-party researcher accusing them. Microsoft's own troubleshooting documentation now explicitly lists pausing OneDrive sync as a diagnostic step for users experiencing sluggish performance. They embedded OneDrive so deeply into Windows 11 that millions of users had their desktop, documents, and pictures folders automatically redirected to the cloud without consciously choosing it. And then they quietly acknowledged in their support docs that yes, this can make your computer slower. The suggestion to pause it and see if performance improves is not a solution. It is an admission wrapped in a shrug. I went through my own network traffic about 8 months ago using a packet analyzer just to see what was actually leaving my machine during a period when I was not actively doing anything, not browsing, not streaming, not downloading. The machine was essentially sitting idle, and the background traffic to Microsoft endpoints was constant telemetry packets dispatched at regular intervals, OneDrive checking sync status, the Microsoft Store polling for updates, Edge running background processes even though I had not opened the browser, all of it humming away, consuming bandwidth and system resources on a machine that was supposed to be doing nothing. That experience is what pushed me to go through every setting I had been ignoring, and that is exactly what I want to help you do now. Before we get into the fixes, I need to cover the Edge situation one more time because it has gotten worse heading into 2026, not better. Windows 11 ships with Edge as the default browser, and changing that default has always been more complicated than it needs to be, requiring multiple steps and the manual reassignment of individual file types. But the deeper issue is that even after you do all of that work and set Chrome or Firefox as your default, certain system-level links, certain windows in the Settings app, certain taskbar features will still open in Edge regardless. Microsoft has hard-coded Edge in two parts of the operating system that bypass your browser preference entirely. The web results from your search bar open in Edge. The news in the widgets panel opens in Edge. System notifications that contain links open in Edge. You can set your default browser 100 times and there will still be pathways Microsoft has reserved exclusively for their own product. This is not a technical necessity. It is an architectural choice made deliberately to maximize Edge's usage numbers, and despite years of user complaints and regulatory scrutiny in Europe, the core behavior has not meaningfully changed. So let's talk about what you can actually do, starting right now in the next 15 minutes, because there is a great deal you can do. I want to be honest with you about one thing first, though. You are not going to achieve a perfectly clean, perfectly private Windows 11 installation through the settings menus alone, the telemetry. You cannot fully disable the Edge pathways, you cannot fully block through the interface, the OneDrive hooks embedded in the file system. These require deliberate effort and in some cases tools beyond what Microsoft makes available to you by default, but that does not mean you are helpless. The very first place you should go is the Privacy and Security section of the Settings app. The majority of users never return to this section after the initial setup, and Microsoft is counting on that. Go to Diagnostics and Feedback and make sure you are on required diagnostic data only, not optional, while you are in that section. Turn off Tailored Experiences. That toggle allows Microsoft to use your diagnostic data to push personalized tips, ads, and recommendations across the operating system. Hit the button to delete your diagnostic data while you are there. Then go to the General section under Privacy and Security and work through every toggle on that page. Let apps use my advertising ID should be off. Let Windows improve start and search results by tracking app launches should be off. Show me suggested content in the Settings app should be off. Each of these is a separate pipeline feeding Microsoft's personalization and advertising infrastructure. None of them need to be active. Go to Activity History and uncheck everything. If you are signed in with a Microsoft account, your activity history can sync across devices and live on Microsoft servers as a comprehensive log of your computing behavior. There is no good reason to have it enabled. Then work through the App Permissions section, which lists every category of sensitive access on your device, from location and camera to microphone, contacts, calendar, and more. Go through each one and look at which apps have been granted access. Your calculator does not need your microphone. A game you downloaded does not need your contacts. Your photo viewer does not need your location. Microsoft does not audit these permissions on your behalf. That responsibility falls entirely on you, and most people who do this exercise for the first time are genuinely surprised by what they find. Now open the Services panel by pressing the Windows key and R together, typing Services, MISC, and hitting Enter. Find the service called Connected User Experiences and Telemetry. This is the core engine that dispatches your diagnostic data to Microsoft. You can disable it by double-clicking it, setting the startup type to Disabled, and clicking Stop. This does not eliminate telemetry entirely because Windows 11 operates on multiple layers, but it significantly reduces what gets sent, and it is one of the highest impact changes you can make according to community guides and security researchers who have been studying this for years. If you are on Windows 11 Pro, Education, or Enterprise, you can go further through the Group Policy Editor, navigating to the data collection settings under Windows Components and setting telemetry to its minimum permitted level. While you are in Services, look for Xbox-related services. If you do not use Xbox or Game Bar, services like Xbox Live Auth Manager, Xbox Live Game Save, and Xbox Live Networking Service consume resources in the background on a machine that may never have touched a single Xbox game. Disable them, go to Settings, then Windows Update, then Advanced Options, then Delivery Optimization, and turn off the toggle that allows downloads from other PCs. This immediately stops your machine from being used as a peer-to-peer upload node for distributing Microsoft's updates to strangers. If you have a capped connection or an older internet plan, this change alone can produce a noticeable improvement in your day-to-day performance. The OneDrive situation deserves dedicated attention. If you have not deliberately chosen to use OneDrive as your cloud storage solution, open the OneDrive system tray icon, go to Settings, then Manage Backup, and turn off the backup for any folder you did not consciously choose to sync. The way Windows 11 handles this by default has caused genuine chaos for millions of users whose files have behaved unexpectedly, whose deletions have synced across devices they did not expect, whose local saving ability has been affected by cloud storage running out. If you want to go further, you can unlink OneDrive entirely from the same settings interface. You keep the app installed, but your local folders stop being treated as extensions of Microsoft's cloud. Beyond the built-in settings, the Windows community has built third-party tools specifically to address what Microsoft's own interface does not give you access to. Chris Titus X Windows Utility, which you can run directly from PowerShell with administrative privileges in a single command, has been refined over years of community input and is widely trusted as of 2026. It lets you remove bloatware, disable telemetry and activity history, strip out Copilot and its background processes, remove the Bing integration from the search bar, and kill the game DVR recording that runs in the background even when you are not gaming. Win11D bloat maintained on GitHub and sitting at over 39,000 stars as of early 2026, received a graphical interface in February 2026, making it significantly more accessible to users who are not comfortable working purely in PowerShell. It allows you to select exactly which apps and services to remove with reversible changes, stored in registry files so you can undo anything that creates a problem. One important caution here, some of these tools make changes that go beyond what their documentation clearly explains, and a few of the more aggressive preset options can disable things like fast startup or certain system services in ways that create new problems instead of solving old ones. Create a restore point before you run anything. Apply changes gradually rather than all at once. Read through the change list before you execute. Done carefully, the combination of manual settings changes through privacy and security, disabling the connected user experiences and telemetry service, turning off delivery optimization peer sharing, unlinking OneDrive from your local folders, clearing your advertising ID, disabling activity history, cleaning up your startup apps through the Task Manager Startup tab, and running one of these community tools on top of that puts you in a dramatically better position than where Windows 11 leaves you when it comes out of the box. Microsoft is, right now, talking publicly about a calmer Windows experience. They are talking about fewer upsells. There are reports of an internal project aimed at reducing bloat, cutting back on ads, improving performance, and fixing File Explorer, with changes expected to roll through insider builds across 2026 and into 2027. But between an intention and an experience people actually feel on their machines, there is a very long road, and the problems I have described in this video are not hypothetical. They are your current reality, running in the background right now, on the machine you paid for, while you decide what to do about them.